Good evening. I call to order the meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Burr Ridge for January 13, 2025. Can I ask Plan Commissioner Stratus to lead us in the pledge?
Thanks. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Michael. Roll call.
I'll be doing it tonight. Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Schiappa.
Here.
Trustee Paveza.
Here.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Maital.
Here.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
Mayor Grasso.
Here.
7.
Okay, that takes us to item 3, presentations and public hearings. Metronet Community Fiber Program.
Good evening. My name is Shayna Brockett. This is Martin Garrity. We're with Metronet. We're here to talk to you about Metronet coming into Burr Ridge. We're very excited to be here. So we'll get started with the presentation. So a little bit about Metronet. It was founded in 2005 in Evansville, Indiana, which is where I'm from. We are the nation's largest independently owned 100% fiber to the premise company in the U.S. We do provide 100% fiber optic internet and phone service. We're currently serving 300 plus communities in 19 states, and if you look at the map, they're color-coded in purple. We currently serve 2 million homes and businesses that have access to Metronet. Okay. A little bit about fiber, the quality of life. It is reliable, it's fast, it's crystal clear, there's no buffering, no lag time. That's for your internet and your phone. Fiber optics is the fastest way to transmit information today. Metronet provides this connection directly to homes and businesses. Again, so there's no barrier between you and a fast, reliable connection. The Brattle Group. So they did a study on fiber recently. They did a study to show that the fiber deployment has significant incremental economic benefits. In the urban areas, there's the housing value increases by 17% and in non-urban areas by 14%. So this is a few of our recognitions, our accolades. If you look and see, we've been recognized by Nextdoor, Ookla, Netflix, PC Mag, just to name a few. Okay. Communication. This is how we communicate with the residents that were coming to their neighborhoods. There's the 3/4-part notification system. So the first, if you look in the top, we do a letter. 30 to 45 days prior to construction, we're going to do a construction letter. We know a lot of times that this might get thrown in the trash, it might get overlooked, it might have gotten forgotten. So then 7 to 10 days prior, we do construction underway postcards. Those are bright green to grab attention. Again, if those don't get noticed, we do yard darts, which you'll see on the bottom left there, about 3 to 5 days prior. Those are bright green as well. And then the fourth we do, it's a realtor type sign we'll do in the entrances of the neighborhoods. And then all of these communications have our customer service phone number and our construction website. It's not a sales site, it's a construction website that's dedicated to construction. The residents can put tickets in that will be responded to within 24 business hours. If they have questions such as, when are you coming to my neighborhood, or I have a dog fence, or I have a sprinkler system, they can put tickets in on our construction website or our customer service line. So construction, you'll look at the map. That's not a map here, but that is a map what they look like. These are in what they call LCPs, which are manageable size locations, and that's how we do our building. So we do work closely with the city team on right-of-way permits. We do provide daily street sheets to whoever would want to be on that list, and it just shows where we're going to be that day. So if you have questions about is that Metronet, it'll tell you what street we're on that day. We do meet monthly with the city team to review our previous month's work. So we're very transparent. We're going to provide ticketing information, what types of tickets, how long it took us to respond, how long it took us to close them out. We do footage, and we also provide strike information as well. Field crew. So this is what our contractors look like. They're very easily identifiable with the name badges, the trucks, the hard hats, the vest, everything says contractor for MetroNet. One of our field supervisors manages every 3 to 5 crews, and the MetroNet staff will stay in the community post-city build.
So one of the things that Shane has hit on all through this is our goal with construction. One of the things that Shane has hit, that can be very loud. One of the things that Shane has hit on is our goal through all this process is communications to the homeowners, to the city staff, to everybody involved, so there are no surprises with the city staff, with the residents, so everybody knows who's working for MetroNet. There's no doubt that they're working for us, so we desire to be proactively communicating with everybody and keep the burden off of the city staff, off the city or the village, and keep it on MetroNet. And we'll be working everywhere with permission from the village as we go through the permitting process. But it's very important to us to maintain that communications positively with the residents and the village. Sorry for interrupting.
No, thank you. Restoration, that's a big question everyone has, restoration. So we do restore within 24 to 48 hours as we're building. So if you look at some of the pictures, that's how we start out and that's how we end. But we do restore as we go. So you don't have to worry about construction being left behind. We're gonna go in behind and restore. Responsive to resident and city restoration questions and needs. So what that means is, again, if a resident would put a ticket in with a question or an issue, we are going to respond to that resident within 24 business hours. And again, we have a 99% plus response rate within 24 hours. And that is information that we will share with you all, the city, each month in our construction communication meetings. Post-construction. So the top row is what MetroNet looks like. So the flower pots is what they're called. They're flush with the ground. So you'll see the pedestals, that's not us, but that's what other utility companies look like. We are flush with the ground, so it makes it easy to mow around. It makes it easy to landscape around. Residents can put mulch on top if they want, just no permanent structures. Again, the bottom, you're gonna see what we look like after construction. You'll notice the aerial on the pole. We are not gonna be doing aerial in Burr Ridge, so that's what it looks like, but we will not be doing aerial, just to note.
So you want to take questions as we go along? I've got one. So you said they can put mulch on those green circles?
They can if they want to, just nothing.
You need them for access though, for repairs or something?
That's why you can put mulch if we do need to access them.
Right.
But we don't access them all the time. Martin, how often do you think we access them?
So I have one in my front yard, and it's been there probably 7 years, and it was accessed the day of install. And that's the last time it's been accessed, and it's beautiful. It's right in my front, under my tree with mulch on it. Right now it has Christmas lights on top of it, but it's very rarely to be accessed.
Yeah, my concern is not that at all. It's if you do need to access, are you gonna know where it is if somebody put mulch on top of it, or if 7, 8 years go by and the grass grows over it?
So every structure we put in has a locating puck in it, and we have these magic wands that'll be able to find them. So they're little orange pucks that sit in there. So the answer to your question is yes.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, keep going, thank you.
I'm sorry?
You're up.
I've got, yeah, I need to slide, okay. So the last one here is our community commitment to Burr Ridge. We are very involved in community engagement. We have a community engagement team. So again, we do toy drives, we do food drives, we do blood drives, YMCA volunteering, family events. So you'll see some pictures of us in the community. So if that's something that you're interested in, we can get community engagement with MetroNet involved with your community engagement team, and we can talk about all the events that we would like to be a part of. Or if there's something that you would like us to be a part of, you can get with me, and then we'll get with the community engagement team, and we'll figure out what we can do, like golf scrambles, sponsorships, things like that. And that's all I have.
All right, any questions? Any of the trustees have any questions?
Do you have a timeline when you're coming into the
So we are looking to start, we have located, so our network, nothing will be above ground in the village of Burr Ridge. We've located what we call a hut that will be the only above ground structure in this whole area. which is in Darien off of Plainfield Ave, just east of Main Street in that area. Nobody lives there, I hope. And that's where we'll start, and then we'll come up Plainfield Road, and we're gonna look to start that in the spring. So it will take us a little while to get up Plainfield and get into Burr Ridge, so looking at probably 9 months to get up, 6 to 9 months to get up here, sir.
Okay, thank you.
If they lived in Darien, they wouldn't be up on this board.
I know, I just,
They better not be, at least.
yeah, exactly. Never to be too sure, but yeah,
Right.
I figured as much, sir.
Okay, any questions from anybody in the audience, the public?
I'm assuming this is all horizontal drilling?
Yes, sir.
Directional boring?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We are always increasing, go ahead, Ben. Yeah, we're always increasing our maximum speed. Right now, we're offering 5 gigabits per second in some communities, 2 gigabits in others, but we are always increasing that. So right now, it's in the 1 to 5 range, but that's always going up. And that's per sub, and that's asymmetrical. We don't do 10 up and 5 gig down. 5 gig down, it's asymmetrical service.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds good. All right, anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to the consent agenda. Because I'm a little struggle of voice tonight, I'm going to ask Evan to take over the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. An item that shall be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any one trustee or anyone present in the meeting. A roll call should be taken on the approval of the consent agenda and recorded in the minutes as an omnibus vote. If an item is removed from the consent agenda, it will be discussed by the board, open for public comment, and voted upon during the meeting. I believe there are a couple we wanted to remove. Trustee Smith, I think you had 1 or 2.
Right.
6A.
5A
5A.
and 7H.
Okay, so the personnel manual item and the amendment agreement. Okay?
I'm sorry, what were those again, please?
5A
7.
and 7H.
7H.
No
Thank you.
7H, 8H,
There is no 7H.
8H?
I've got a
It might be-
7H.
It might be 7 or 8, depending on the updated agenda.
8H.
Well, I got the old agenda or the new
Change.
agenda?
I know which one we're talking about. I got you. Okay,
Consideration, 8.
talking about the personnel manual and the employment agreement.
Correct.
Got it, okay. So reading off your 5A minutes, approval of regular board meeting of December 9th, 2024. B, receive and file plan commission meeting of January 6th, 2025. 6, skipping A, B, approval of an ordinance amending section 291 of chapter 2 administration of the Burr Ridge Municipal Code chain of succession. 6C, approval of an ordinance amending section 10 and 14 of the Burr Ridge zoning ordinance to review and define uses within the manufacturing districts. ZOA 2024 text amendment, manufacturing district. D, approval of an ordinance amending section 4H8E of the Burr Ridge zoning ordinance to increase the height of an overhead door for detached accessory structures in residential districts. Z19 2024 text amendment, detached garage door height. E, approval of an ordinance granting variations as per section 5507 of the Village of Burr Ridge sign ordinance to permit a wall sign mounted higher than 20 feet and a combined area of the wall sign and ground sign to exceed 100 square feet, consistent with the previously approved total square footage for TCF, approximately 127 feet, SO3 2024, 800 Burr Ridge Parkway, JD Real Estate. Considerations 8G, approval of request for a raffle license for Pillars Community Health and Hosting Facility, Marriott Chicago Southwest at Burr Ridge, for an event on February 22nd, 2025. I, receive and file separation notice of Special Projects Manager Hannah Breeke. J, approval of a vendor list dated January 13th, 2025 for fiscal year 2025 in the amount of $1,243,204.48 for all funds, plus $452,746.77 for payroll periods ending December 7th, 2024 and December 21st, 2024 for a grand total of $1,694,951.25.
Okay, thank you, Evan. With that, can I get a motion to approve the following items on the consent agenda? 5A and B, 6, B, C, D, E, and E, 8A, 8G, I, and J.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Any comment or questions from the public? Roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
Trustee Paveza.
Yes.
Trustee Mytal.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. That takes us to 6 ordinances A. I think this is trustee Smith. Approval of an ordinance amending the Village of Burr Ridge personnel manual.
Yep.
Trustee Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. I am appreciative of the work staff put into updating our village personnel manual, though I do see a need for further review in our drug-free and alcohol workplace policy after the very unfortunate event last April with one of our police officers. I asked Evan to pull up 2.6, which is our drug-free workplace policy, and if you can highlight the last 2 sentences of that first paragraph. Yep. So the verbiage is pretty strict. The village does not and will not tolerate any illegal drug use, nor will the village tolerate the abuse of alcohol or prescription or lawful drugs. This policy is applicable to all our workforce and all locations. In this example, I think what's missing is we need a little bit stronger language where if such employee is caught or not following this policy, termination of employment should take place. And I want to continue on page 44.
We were on 44. I think you mean 45.
45 now, okay, yep. So if you can highlight number 2, A2 workday. Thank you. So there seems to be some loose ends in this manual, and I'm going to show one here. So it says A2, consuming or possessing alcohol, marijuana, or illegal drugs at any time during the workday or anywhere on any village premises or job sites, including all village buildings, properties, vehicles, any employee's personal vehicle while engaged in village business. I'm going to suggest that we probably have a need for our attorney and possibly Bob Smith, another attorney, to review the tightness of what we have here written, because I'm going to suggest that we have employees that drive village vehicles, not just on work days, but also on weekends. And I just think we can't leave loose ends in these documents if, in fact, we have issues with employees that are abusing our drug and alcohol policy. So my ask is we probably need to get attorneys to review this, probably strike work days out of some of these documents, and just tighten it up so that if there's ever a future issue, we are protecting our residents and we are protecting our village against possible liability. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. A couple points there. One on your termination request. I just don't think under the law it can be automatic. I understand where you're coming from. I'm certainly sympathetic to the position you're taking, not suggesting anything, but there are legal requirements of having to give people consideration, and we just can't move to termination. I will look into that to make sure. That's my understanding of the law, but I think that's the barrier to making it, if you will, automatic termination.
Consequence.
I just don't think that's legal, and I also don't think we want to tie our hands that tightly that there might be, I can't think of any, but there might be some extenuating circumstances where we wouldn't want to do that. But I don't think legally we can just terminate people with union contracts and other things that are statewide and have nothing to do with Burr Ridge. Again, we are a non-home rule community, and because we are non-home rule, we only have the power the state gives us, and if the state says you can't do that, then we can't do that. So it's that simple on that, and I'll confirm it.
Okay.
As to workday, that might be a definitional issue that we can look at. Certainly in the situation that you're referencing, that individual, as far as I was concerned, was working those days. He was on village business when that happened. So maybe it's a definition of what workday means, or at least we clean that up so we mean for the very situation that you're bringing to bear. So I'll look into both of those and let everybody know.
Thank you.
To piggyback on what trustee Smith said, would being on village property, like driving a village vehicle, also be considered being on village property?
Yeah.
Or working?
I would think so, and I think
So that
where
needs to
Russ
be-
is coming from, and I think it's a good catch, we want to be clear that if you're doing the village's business, even if you're not in Burr Ridge or in Illinois, or you might be in Virginia, for example, then you're still covered, you still come under these provisions, and you will have to pay the consequences.
Or if you're driving the village's vehicle?
Or if you're driving the village's vehicle at any time. As far as that's concerned, if you're driving a village vehicle, then you're on village business.
Correct.
Now, we have to be careful because we do lease a car, maybe for the village administrator, for example, and he certainly, although he takes calls from me almost every time I call him, he's not on duty all the time. He's a father and a husband, and he's got other things in his life. So we want to be clear about what we're talking about.
Right.
Yes?
I mean, Mike, or the attorney, I mean, I think it's pretty clear, including all village buildings, properties, vehicles. What does that mean?
So I think, is that within the workday?
Yeah, if you're operating a village vehicle because you're on an assignment for the village or under the circumstance that we're referencing, that's on village property or in a village vehicle. The problem there is, I don't think that person was charged with actually consuming the alcohol while in that vehicle. It was being under the influence while operating it. So there does need to be some clarification there. So you shouldn't be under the influence when you're
Either.
operating a vehicle,
Good point.
as opposed to consuming it while you're sitting in a car. So,
We'll clean that
I
part up.
understand your premise.
Yeah, I want to make sure we're clear, and I'm not going back in time, it's going future. It's just, we have employees that drive village vehicles all week long. They can drive them on Saturday, they can drive them on Sunday, so I just want to make sure that our verbiage does apply not just on workday, but throughout the week.
I'm clear on what
Yep,
you're
thank
telling
you.
me.
yeah, and there's the or in there. It's during the workday or when you're operating that vehicle or on village property. So if you're on village property, performing services, even when it's not a workday, it'll apply, but we can clean that
And
up.
this is why I'm asking
we-
for attorneys to review it.
Can we
Tighten it up.
continue this to the next meeting? we have?
I assume that we're okay with passing it, and then we'll come back with later language just to revise this. Is that what you're?
If the other trustees are, I'd be fine with it.
But okay with it? Yes?
I have some additional comments too.
Sure.
Thank you. I agree with trustee Smith. We need to tighten this up, make it clear and concise. So really, there's no wiggle room, and it's clear to the employees that they understand what their role is. I also think that this needs to be brought in line with the private sector. So if we could please go to PDF page 46. Item C. Did the PDF numbers change?
No? Which section are you trying to find?
The alcohol tolerance limit. There we go.
There,
Item C. So what PDF page is this?
47.
It did change. So at item C, it says concentration of 0.02 or greater. In the private sector, it's 0.00. There's no tolerance for alcohol in the workplace. There's no tolerance for alcohol if you're driving a company vehicle, if you're using company equipment, or if you're operating a snowplow or a police car or whatever. I think we need to be 0.0 as well. I hate to have an accident, some accident out there happen, and it turns out that the employee had 0.02% alcohol in the system, and we allowed it. Okay, well, that might have been a contributing factor to the accident. We should be crystal clear
as to what's allowed and what's not allowed. So in the private sector, it's 0.0.
Right, and then before you go to your next point, again, we'll check it. If the state law says something different, and we have to be consistent with the state law, we may have to have something in there that's consistent with state law.
Okay.
But absent that, then
Okay?
I think everybody would go 0-0.
Yeah.
Okay?
Next page, please, that would be 48 now. No smoking policy. We talk about village vehicles, no smoking. It's mentioned later on in PDF page 89, no smoking in village vehicles. Needs to be mentioned here also.
It says right here.
Thank you.
Interior village-owned vehicles.
Yeah, okay, I think that's covered.
Thank you. Missed that. Thank you. PDF page 51 then. Confidentiality policy should, and privacy should also apply to elected officials who are in closed session meetings and should not be able to, or could not and should not be able to divulge confidential information discussed during those meetings to the public outside that meeting without some sort of penalty.
So I just want to clarify your direction here. The manual as a whole, earlier up, and I can pull it up if necessary, applies to elected and appointed officials as well, as a whole. But I think you're saying there needs to be
Clarify.
Spell it out.
clarification about closed session confidentiality?
Spell it out.
Okay.
So it's,
I understand.
so
Yeah, because
we don't have, I'm not going back, I don't like going back in time, but we had problems in the past where this was an issue. And it needs to be spelled out clear so we can go to it right away and say, look, it says right here in section 2.13.
good
Can't
catch.
talk about it.
And totally agree, since we do have a little history.
Have a little history.
Okay.
PDF page 66, please. Wellness incentives. So we're rewarding our employees for being healthy, correct?
It's essentially, yeah, or taking healthy measures, I should say.
Take healthy measures. What I don't want to have happen is we're rewarding them for coming to work if they're sick. Could this be wellness policy be misconstrued or manipulated in that way?
So actually, one of the other changes, it's the sick leave policy that I propose to change. Right now, what happens is when you start work, you have no leave and you have to accrue it.
Right.
One of the changes was to give you the equivalent of now a year's bank of sick leave right up front.
Right.
So that you have some sick leave
I'm okay with
in
that.
case someone's sick. We certainly could write maybe more of an administrative policy about how that would work. I would say we really don't have an issue of people coming to work while sick because we have a sick leave separate thing. So this is more related to, so like as an example, we are in a wellness initiative with IPBC, our benefits provider, and they will give us dollars if we have enough people go to a wellness fair, as an example.
Sure.
And so that money
Okay.
is where that would be coming from. So it's more like that. But I could certainly think about what you're asking.
Yeah, I just, I like
Bless you.
all the sick time up front because then employee can't say, well, gee, I'm sick, but I don't have any sick time. So I had to come to work.
Right.
We don't want that.
Well, we've also had the opposite of people going, I'm sick and I have no time, I need to quit. And I'm like, we don't want that. That's a silly way of doing it,
Right.
so.
Okay, all right, so it's a fine line, and I understand, so. Okay, one last comment, please, page 70, I believe it is. In the private sector, new employees typically start out with 3 weeks of vacation. At most companies, some companies have unlimited PTO. I think to be competitive with the private sector, we should start our employees out with 3 weeks, go to 4 weeks after 5 weeks, and 5 weeks after 10 years.
I certainly don't disagree with your desire. I do want to be clear, though, that you also get 5 personal days in addition to 2 weeks when you start.
5 personal days.
Personal days are different than vacation. You can't carry over personal. You can carry over some vacation.
Okay.
I just want to make sure you're aware of that, to make sure that
Where
we're
is
clear.
that listed here?
Right here. Personal, I'm sorry, 32 hours, so 4 days. So there's 4 personal days, and then you have full-time employees are allowed 2 weeks vacation at the start of employment, so 2 weeks and 4 days. I just want to make sure that you understand you get effectively 3 weeks when you start, but it's carved up a little bit.
Okay. And you can
Also
take
vacation.
those personal days in succession? Like, if you want to take them all at once?
Yes,
Okay.
yep,
Want to make it 5 days?
sure,
No?
no,
Okay.
Please.
All right. I'm trying to be, you know, we want to get top quality, we want to attract top quality employees, and we want to be competitive with the private sector. So, okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
And I should note that you guys did give me the ability to also do this. If you have an employee that's exceptional, I can give them a third week at vacation at start. We don't do that often, but we have had examples where people are overqualified, and this is an incentive because they leave like a 6-week vacation job. I need to do something. So that has been contemplated in the past, and I just want to be clear that while I appreciate that very much, I think that benefit's already there.
Anybody else? Yes, Tony?
The employees, once it's done, finalized, do they sign an acknowledgements?
Yes, every new employee gets it at the start of employment, and everybody gets it when it changes at any point, and they have to sign it electronically.
Okay, and then since we're going to put things in here about elected officials, I'd like all the elected officials and the mayor also to sign off on the personnel policy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if it's pertaining to us.
Right.
you know, we have to
We have to acknowledge it some way.
acknowledge, understand
You
it.
know, I don't
and-
want somebody to
agree.
say, oh, I didn't know it was in there,
Right,
right?
Yeah.
We're all in agreement?
yes.
Agreed. Thank you.
All right. You want to pass this tonight subject to the changes, or do we have several changes? Do you want to kick it? There's not going to be a second in January, so we're going to meet in February. You want to kick it to February, or do you want, what's your preference? You
We're
need
gonna
it?
have some mid-year updates anyway, and I'd like some time just to chew through all this to make sure it's all coherent with Mike and attorney, so
So can I get a motion to table this
I'll bring
matter?
all those changes back, yes.
Can I get a motion to table item 6A, approval of an ordinance amending the Village of Burr Ridge's personnel manual with all the comments of record kept in mind, and table it to the next board meeting?
So moved.
We have a motion, a second by Al. Any questions, comments? Any questions or comments from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Okay. I think that takes us to 8 considerations. Consideration of a plan commission recommend, oh, no.
Nope.
Let's take it to the other, I'm sorry. That'll take us to considerations, but to the other item that trustee Smith took off the consent agenda. That's H, approval of an amendment to the village administrator's employment agreement. Trustee Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. Wanted to take this opportunity to thank Evan Walter for the great work he has been doing for our residents and our village. And this amendment to the agreement is well-deserved, so thank you. I do want to confirm that this agreement and the new upcoming contract issued after your term of May 12th will financially be the same, except for obviously things such as COLA and other employee benefits.
Correct.
Am I correct on that? Okay, thank you.
That'll require another vote for
Correct.
that successor
Oh, sorry,
agreement.
yes,
Right.
yes.
Yep.
Right, we certainly intend to keep it consistent. He's committed to doing that. I don't know that we can go there yet because we only have you, the 6 of you, only have the power through the current mayor's term, which ends at the end of April of
Okay.
this month, of this year, 2025. When the new mayor, when we're all sworn in again in May, then we'll take up his contract for the new contract throughout the mayoral term of 4 years. But the intent is to keep it consistent,
That's what I was looking for.
okay?
Do I need to make a motion to approve 8H now?
Now, I will do that. Can I get a motion for approval of an amendment to the village administrator's employment?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion from the trustees? Any discussion from the public? Since it is a contract for compensation, roll call, please.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
trustee Lightoll,
Yes.
trustee Snyder,
Yes.
trustee Beveza,
Yes.
trustee Skiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, that motion passes. Now we go to 8A, consideration of a plan commission recommendation to approve a rezoning upon annexation from the R1 residential district to the R3 residential district, Z15 2024, 1 and 12 Normandy Court, Ashrod and Gulf.
Mayor, can I make a recommendation?
Yes.
I'd like to request that we combine A, B, and C into a single discussion item.
okay.
Because C is related to the act of actual annexation. The first two are just related to rezoning if 8C were to be approved. If you were to deny for some reason on C, A and B really are immaterial.
Okay, so can I get a motion to combine items 8A, B, and C on the agenda?
So moved.
And Schneider second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that takes it to be combined, so let me read B and C, please. B is consideration of a Plan Commission recommendation to approve a rezoning upon annexation from the R1 Residential District to the R3 Residential District, Z18 2024, 8S 255 Normandy Court, Stochvisky. And C, consideration of annexation of 1, 12, and 8S 255 Normandy Court. Janine?
Thank you, Mayor. So as you just voted upon, I'm going to address all three of these agenda items together. So that concerns the annexation and the rezone 1, 12, and 8S 255 Normandy Court. And just for reference, Normandy Court is a cul-de-sac road that is located off of the north side of 74th Street. The owners of the properties have petitioned to annex into the village and also be rezoned to R3 upon that annexation. On Normandy Court, there are 9 parcels total. These are the only 3 parcels that are requesting annexation at this time. Both 1 and 12 Normandy Court are owned by one party, and these are both vacant parcels. 8S 255 Normandy Court is a separate owner and contains a detached single-family residence. The petitioners are additionally requesting to be rezoned to R3 upon annexation, since the parcels do not meet the minimum lot size or lot frontage requirements for the default R1 zoning. The Plan Commission recommended unanimous approval of the rezoning upon annexation request, citing the adjacent R3 in the area and also the parcel's conformance with the minimum R3 lot size requirements. We did receive a public comment objecting to the annexation request, and that was included in your your board packet. Commissioner Stratus is here tonight, and the petitioners are also present. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
All right, let's start with the trustees. Any questions of Janine?
On annexation, if there's 3 individuals would like to annex, we'll be taking care of the full street, correct? We'll take care of all of the property up and down, winter, summer, whatever. So the individuals who are not annexing or not requesting, they're gonna get it done for free.
So Dave Preissig and we actually spoke with the Township Highway Commissioner. So we confirmed that the village would take care of Normandy Court that is in front of the village properties, and then the remainder of Normandy Court would be taken care of by the township for a pothole, just as an example. When it would come time to resurfacing the entirety of the street, there would be a cost share in order to get the resurfacing done. Both parties would engage in that. As far as snow plowing is concerned, the township does it now, and they will continue to do that, the whole street.
Should we memorialize this in a little letter agreement, or?
With the township? I mean, we can, yep.
I don't need a formal contract, but something in writing that acknowledges this is what the agreement is. Okay? Is that okay with you, Trustee Snyder?
I'm gonna listen to what the rest, listen to the rest
All
of
right,
the
I can't hear you,
discussion.
Joe.
I'd like to hear the rest of the discussion.
Thank you.
Okay, Anita?
Even in your experience, has this ever been done where we've annexed just a part of it and not even like half of it, like the north half or the south half? This is like pieces of it. Has that ever been done before?
So throughout the village, granted not under my time here, but you will still see there are pieces of the village. You have 74th Street actually right up here on our map, and you can see there's 3 parcels located on the south side of 74th completely surrounded by the village, and they're still unincorporated. So, there are instances where we've taken chunks of properties at a time as they've desired to come into the village.
Okay, so it is really the property owner's desire to be a part of the village, not
Correct. The village doesn't have a policy or procedure to go actively solicit annexations. We rely on the property owners to come petition the village, which has occurred in this instance.
And there's no like, we will only annex a certain parcel, not piecemeal.
No, it's a decision up to the board, again, about annexation and establishing a policy for that, but historically, we've taken in, one parcel at a time if that person requests it, and of course, can be annexed into the village if we are adjacent.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions from anybody in the public? Yes. Come on up and identify yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Mark Stednitz for Normandy Court.
Why don't you?
Stick me in
Grab
the
the-
eye, thank God I got safety protection on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a principal party in developing Normandy Court back in 2003, 2004. At that point in time, we had the option to be annexed into Burr Ridge or petition to be in Burr Ridge. We decided to stay into DuPage County for different reasons, nor here nor there at this point in time. My concern is forced annexation. It doesn't make a lot of sense, in my opinion, to bring in 3 pieces of property in the middle of a block. For what reason? The end game, I'm sure, is Lake Michigan water. Without a doubt, it's Lake Michigan water. Once again, who's going to pay for the water lines to get in there? You can't just run a water line 500 feet up. It's got to be looped. So you're not going to run it 500 feet and leave 500 feet not looped. So you're going to run it throughout the whole cul-de-sac. Who's going to pay for that? Wanted to stay in DuPage County back when we developed the property, still want to stay here. So my question to the board is, what's your position on forced annexation?
Generally, we do not, it's a policy not to engage in forced annexation.
This is a different circumstance, though, because you're getting 3 pieces of property in the middle of a block. It doesn't make sense logistically.
Well, that same argument could have applied when Harvester Park was annexed into the village, and we didn't annex the property directly to the west, which was Normandy Court. So that was, again, on a bigger scale. When Harvester Park was, and the International Harvester was annexed into the village in the early 1960s, we could have then gone further west, annexed parcels, including this one, forcibly. Babson Park, or this, where Normandy Court is, we could have annexed it back then, but we didn't. We didn't forcibly annex it then. But, so that same argument you're saying applies what happened in the 60s, which we did not forcibly annex these properties back then.
So what you're saying is you will not force annex that area at this point in time?
There's no reason.
No,
But we-
right,
here we are.
I don't see a reason, I don't think the board sees a reason to do that.
Okay. And let's say you annex these 3 properties, you drop the water line, who pays for that?
I don't think, is the water line part of this deal? I don't think so.
That's got to be the end game.
It might be the end game, but then there's going to be connection fees and costs to the property owners, but I'll let Janine address it. You just give her the microphone for a second.
Sure, I can speak to that and any sort of technical details. We do have Dave here, but Dave and I have spoken with the property owners here, so any cost of extending a water main would be at their own expense. The village would not pay for that. So the village would not be extending the water main, the entire length of Normandy Court or even to these properties. If the properties wanted Lake Michigan water, they could extend the water main. Technical specs that they would have to build under, pay for it themselves, we would have to inspect it, but.
Okay, and the petitioners are here, and you do understand that water's not part of this deal right now, right? Okay, so make sure that's clear in the minutes. Okay, anybody else? Yes, Anita?
Are they aware of what it would potentially cost? Because we don't want buyers.
It'd be
remorse.
expensive. Okay, yes, Russ?
So I have a comment. Per the residents, issue of potentially being forced annexed, that's not the situation here tonight. However, we have funds at the village, and we are talking about annexation. I would certainly entertain, on behalf of staff, if all the homeowners, current homeowners, and the owners of these, of the properties in discussion would want to get together with the village and potentially meet as a group to all of you become part of the village and get water, police protection, great roads. It's my desire to see your court become the village of Burr Ridge versus piecemeal. But I'm not talking about forced annexation, but it would be great to have a win-win where Normandy Court is all part of the village, but everyone wins in this deal working with the village. That's my comment. My dream world would be all or nothing. That would be my dream. However, we have 3 owners here that are wanting to get into the village. I'm not gonna stop that, but my dream would be to have all Normandy Court become part of the village for services and expenses and everything else that comes beyond that. So that would be my dream if homeowners like yourselves would be interested in the conversation.
So the concern is,
Come on up to the microphone, please identify yourself. And by the way, we're not gonna have a free discussion here. If someone wants to speak, then you come on up and speak, but we're not gonna have a,
so the concern
and
is,
forth.
so Shyla Kareem, one of the property, Normandy Court property owner, who also is opposed to annexation.
can you give us your name, please?
Shyla Kareem.
Oh, thank you.
So the concern is, right now you're saying we won't force annex, but the reality is who wants to have half a street, Burr Ridge maintains half a street, DuPage County manages half a street, and as Mr. Smith was saying, ideally all or nothing. So the concern is today, with good faith, you say, we're not gonna force annex you, it just impacts these three property owners. But you may not be in the same seat down the road, or things may change, and then we're forced into annexation, because from a management point of view, half a street sounds silly. And at some point in time, either DuPage County will say, Burr Ridge, just take it, or Burr Ridge will say, we want it. And so this discussion then becomes moot that with good faith you say you won't, but down the road, we might be forced to annex because of that. One thing I'll say is, each of these property owners bought their land knowing it was unincorporated, and also knowing that there was no municipal water line to their property. And they bought it. Now they want to annex into Burr Ridge. That is a concern for the rest of us who oppose the annexation. And then for those of us who bought, we also knew we bought into unincorporated DuPage County, and with the understanding that it would remain unincorporated. So from our standpoint, at some point in time, the forced annexation is inevitable just because this half a street doesn't make sense. And so we encourage you to keep it intact and keep Normandy Court intact and not annex partially. Just leave it unincorporated.
So your position would be that you would have a veto over your neighbors if they wanted to come into Burr Ridge, and if you didn't want to, you could stop them? Is that your position?
If I didn't want to, I would stop.
Are you part of the group that wants to come into Burr Ridge?
No, I am opposed
Right.
to it.
So your position is that you want to have a veto on someone else who does want to come into Burr Ridge because you don't want to?
Because inevitably, it will impact us, those who do not want to be able to
Well,
annex into Burr Ridge.
that's true, and that's what happens in life. Things do change, and there are impacts. But you know that the policy of this village so far is to be against forced annexation. So there is no ulterior motive or nothing here that should make you lose sleep at night that we're suddenly now going to force annex you. We're not going to do that. I could see trustees maybe wanting to question, will we bring in 3 and not all of them, because you don't want to. But for you to have a veto over their request, I don't think that's fair.
Well, because it will impact us. And I really, not that I question the sincerity at this moment by the board. Realistically, long-term, I can't see either DuPage County or Burr Ridge wanting to maintain half a street each. Then that decision for them to annex impacts the rest of us directly, those who don't want to annex.
Right, but right now it doesn't, and maybe you want to think about coming into Burr Ridge then, if you're concerned about that. But that's something that might happen someday, and you want to stop what's going to happen today because of something you think might happen some other
Yes,
day.
that's correct,
I
because-
think you're asking to have too much power over your neighbor's
Well,
property.
I don't have the power, you guys have the power.
Yeah, we have the
So
power,
we're asking
right.
you to consider leaving Normandy Court unincorporated.
Well, that
in its
is,
entire-
that is a choice to be made tonight.
Right, in
right.
its entirety.
Right. Anybody else? You can come up and come to the microphone. We can wait.
Do we have the board?
My name is Mohammed Arshad, and I'm the owner of 1 and 12 Normandy Court.
I'm sorry, start over, please.
He's Mr. Ashad.
My name is Mohammed Arshad. Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm the owner of 1 and 12 Normandy Court. And it's, first of all, these 3 lots which we are discussing right now, they are not in the middle of this court, but they are adjacent to the already annexed part of the Burridge Village. So number 1. Number 2 is, to your point, I have requested everybody in that cul-de-sac to come and join, but for various reasons, they turned down my request. So these are the 2 points I wanted to make.
Right, you have to be contiguous to us for us to invite you in. I think we understand that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public? Anybody else have any more questions? Yes, Joe?
So this gentleman came up, he's 1 and 12.
Yes.
Where's the other parcel?
8.
8, all 3 are to,
1 second.
Thank you.
Evan,
Get a
do you wanna
better
pull
map.
up the plat of annexation? That, oop,
Right there.
okay, right there. So,
so there's 2 on one side of the street and 1 on the other?
So it's 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
correct, yes. 1 and
And-
12 are on opposite sides of the road, and then 8S 255 is just south of 12. So it's 1, 8S, 12.
Which are the 2 that are contiguous?
Right.
Put that one back up.
So these properties right here are already in the village.
Right.
They have a 74th Street address,
Okay.
But they're on Normandy Court.
1st, 2nd, and 3rd Street.
Right.
The gentleman who just spoke owns the 2 Stark properties.
Is the third other party, the one that's in
I
between them?
believe so.
We have
sir.
another gentleman here
Yes.
that's
So,
representing.
so my question, so the first 3 were already annexed, the next 3 are already contiguous. Okay. The only opposition I still have is are we working on Normandy? And we asked Dave, we're cleaning all the streets, township does half, we're doing half, there's a problem with the road, they're doing their portion, we're gonna split it's still the same thing we've been doing already, am I correct?
Right, because David, am I correct that we come up to where the Burr Ridge boundary is today? We do that portion of Normandy?
No.
It's called 74th? What is it?
74th Street is the east-west street, and that came into the village a few years ago, so we plow and maintain 74th and all those streets south, 75th, Vine, Brush Hill Road. So we plow and maintain those roads. The little piece of Normandy Court, no, we don't. Downers Grove Township does. The entirety of Normandy Court, plowing, resurfacing, well, it's too new to resurface, but they maintain the rest. This happens elsewhere too, with like pieces of Madison Street, where we own parts, but not, you can see it just down in the south end. But we plow and maintain all the way through. So that's why Downers Grove Township has already said, we'll take Normandy Court its entirety for plowing and maintenance. If it ever has to be resurfaced, we'll apportion it based on where that dividing line is.
Yes.
This went to the planning commission, correct?
Yes, and it was Commissioner Stratus is here, it was a 6-0, 7-0 vote, unanimous? And unanimous in favor.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Tony?
Are there any stormwater issues there?
Janine or David, any stormwater?
I mean, I can see water behind.
There's designated regulated wetlands behind Normandy Court. It's recent enough that it was all developed under a DuPage County Stormwater Ordinance, so it follows all the current regulations at that time. It was 10, 12 years ago, I think, when it was developed.
Does it follow ours?
We would follow the DuPage County Stormwater Ordinance, yeah, as it's on the DuPage side of the village.
Okay.
So from a public works maintenance standpoint, in terms of maintaining the road and plowing the road, is this okay with you?
Eventually, it would be like any other street if we took its entirety, but again, that's why we talked to the township to say it doesn't make sense to stop 3 lots up, and they said the same thing. We have already maintained, like we said, little parts of Madison Street that aren't ours, Meadowbrook Court that isn't ours, Vine and 90th is a similar situation, so they'll keep Normandy.
So you work together with the township before on similar type properties, and you don't see a big burden on us for this one?
Correct.
Okay. Yes?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, finish your questions and I'll ask
I
mine.
was at the planning commission, so they said that they were okay to annex it as R1 and convert it to R3. But regarding whether or not we annex, that is up to the board.
Yes,
That's what they said.
absolutely. Yes, trustee Francis?
So the wetlands, are those delineated in a separate lot? Or lots?
So I believe that the wetlands are not located on the parcel. There is floodplain on the one Normandy Court parcel, but no wetlands from my memory of looking at
Okay.
the DuPage County GIS. It was it's part of the 74th Street assessment plat, so there's sort of a strange outlot that's located to the west of the properties, which contains the bulk of the wetlands.
Okay, thank you. It's been my experience on 28 years of serving the village here on both the Plan Commission and as a trustee, that this has been done all the time in the past. We've annexed certain portions and certain parcels of streets, and they've come into the village, and maybe 20 years later, as ownership changes, we might annex the rest of the street in. But this has been done all the time in the past, and this is how our village has grown. Currently, we have a portion of Normandy Court already in the village, and that's the portion, at the southern portion, by the 2 houses that have architectural fronts on 74th Street. So we're already maintaining a portion of Normandy Court, already servicing those residents that are in the village that have street side to Normandy Court. So it's already being done. We're just going to add 3 more lots. So I see no problem with this. This is done all the time in the past, and we're going to continue to do in the future if the property owners come to us and request annexation. Thank you.
That last point, I'm glad you clarified, is when they come to us and ask, we've done this
Yes.
before. Yep, I agree with you. Anybody else? Yes, you want to say something? Come on up.
So I'm Nick Tokars. I own 9 Normandy Court. And to your comment about the wetlands, so we actually own part of the wetlands on our property. So one of our reasons for opposition was we've already got a plan with DuPage that we're working through wetlands mitigation. So we didn't want anything to mess up what we're working with DuPage on how we're with our building and stuff like that, and all the different dollars that we've spent on mitigating the wetlands and repairing them after our build, because we're the newest house that was built in 9 Normandy Court.
But we're not going to,
We don't mess with the DuPage.
we're not going to, you're still going to be in DuPage. So you're still going to deal with the wetlands issue
It's a blast.
with
I
DuPage.
will tell you, as a homeowner, it's
We'll
it's definitely a blast.
Right.
But that's just one of the things that my wife and I wanted to talk about. Is just the whole wetlands on our property. It's a little bit
There
different.
is a boundary of where Burr Ridge would be and where it would not be, and it would not be in the wetlands. You can deal with DuPage County.
Perfect. Thank you. You have a good night.
Any other questions? All right. With that,
Take C first.
can I get a motion to annex parcels 1, 12, and 8, S 255 Normandy Court.
It's to prepare an ordinance, direct staff to prepare an ordinance, so.
Motion to direct staff to prepare an ordinance to annex parcels 1, 12, and 8, S 255 Normandy Court.
So moved.
Second.
The motion, I have a second. Any comments from the board? Any questions? Any comments or questions from the public? Roll call, please.
Trustee Skiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
Trustee Paveza.
Yes.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Mytal.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. Welcome. That takes care of items 8B and C. 8D, consideration.
We need a vote on it.
No, we haven't voted on A and B.
A and B.
Sorry.
Yeah, now we have to take those two?
Yeah, because.
All right.
Wouldn't
all
have
right.
considered A and B if the.
All right, thank you
failed.
for the correction.
Sorry.
8A, that's okay. Can I get a motion to approve the recommendation of the Plan Commission to approve rezoning upon annexation from the R1 Residential District to the R3 Residential District, Z15204, 1 and 12 Normandy Court, Ashad and Gull.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second by Skiappa. Any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Mytal.
Yes.
Trustee Paveza.
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, that motion passes. Then can I get a motion to approve the Plan Commission recommendation to approve a rezoning upon annexation from the R1 Residential District to the R3 Residential District, Z18-2024 8S 255 Normandy Court?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, second by Schneider. Any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Roll call, please.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Mytal.
Yes.
Trustee Paveza.
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. Now I can say welcome to Burr Ridge. Thank you. All right, now can I go to 8D?
Yes.
Yeah, the alphabet just switched, that's all.
Okay. Consideration of Street and Pathway Committee recommendation for the 2025 road program. David?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, what you've all been waiting for today. No. Before we get into the 2025 program, we just kind of want to review what we've done in 2024, both in terms of streets and in pathways. The 2024 road program was in the Arrowhead Farm subdivision and the Cambridge Estates subdivision. Those were older roads, about 2004, last resurfaced. And Forest Edge Court, Forest Edge subdivision, this was the first time we got in there since it was constructed. Overall, we came in about $68,000 under budget from where we were in the FY 2025 budget to where we finished up. Again, that was a resurfacing, pavement maintenance, striping, and then our quality assurance programs through there too. We went a little bit over on the pavement marking program because of the extra striping we did on Chasemore to get that up. Then on 83rd Street was the big project this year too. That was both our motor fuel tax and Rebuild Illinois Bond Fund, which we treat like the motor fuel tax. So we had to go through the IDOT process for this one. That came in over budget because when we were budgeting here back in March of 2024, we hadn't yet gone to bid. So we did go to bid in June 2024. Those bids came in. We came in, finished up at the contract award amount of the $1,102,000. So that was what reported as over budget. Again, we were about $45,000 over, but we came in at the contract award amount that you approved back in June. Then the 79th Street pedestrian improvements, this is an ongoing project. We got a little late start out of the gate. We awarded the project in July, but then because of some utility conflicts, didn't really get started until end of September, early October, and now winter has shut us down, so we couldn't finish the restoration. Sidewalk is in, the sidewalk replaced the asphalt. The new sidewalk was built on the north side. It's just been dressed up for safety purposes on the side of that sidewalk. We still have some more restoration work to do. We've got landscaping money set aside to work with the Chasemore HOA on finishing up the landscaping where we cut through everything on the north side of 79th Street. But overall, we're estimating, based on the contract values we have and what we estimate to go forward, that we should finish up about $90,000 under budget on that project. And that's in addition to a $138,000 grant that we got from Cook County through the Investing Cook program to help with the construction of 79th Street sidewalk, which is in there right away. So overall, that was a great program year. We did, again, with those three major projects, about $2.4 million of improvements. That then overall, between all those contracts, we came at about $113,000 under budget. So that's a wrap up of 2024. Going on to 2025, now this would be the year that we do our street survey. Again, the street survey provides us data. It's an objective assessment of our roadways, so we just can't point to a good road or a bad road. We've got data that kind of follow a trend line like this, so that those pavement condition ratings feed into trying to get the street at the right time with the right treatment, so that we aren't letting time go by and let the street get so bad that it's more expensive to get that back up to a good condition roadway. We don't want to see pavements get too far below 70. That's not the kind of road that you would expect in your Burr Ridge neighborhood. So again, we do things like crack sealing to get that back up. We do things like patching to get the road condition back up. And again, we're watching this every 2 years with our street survey. So the worst first isn't always utilized, but we do kind of program based by neighborhood, sometimes based by utility improvements, as you're going to see in our FY 2027 program. But for now, for the 2026 program, and the next slide is these streets. Overall, it's a little bit smaller of a road program, but that's in part because of the larger capital program you're going to see in our next presentation. But we're maxing out where we can with our roads, and we've picked some of the roads that are well due at this time. Forest Hill Road from 79th Street to Burr Oak Lane was last resurfaced, although it's 2009, just didn't last up that way because it was a road we inherited from township over the years. Sorry, no offense to the discussion we just had about township roads. Different kind of makeup back here. But it was an older chip sealed road that we've resurfaced over the years. So we've got to touch that one. The timing of that is right because Cook County is going to resurface 79th Street from County Line Road to Wolf Road. We've just done the sidewalk improvements. They're going to resurface this year, and then we're going to tie that in kind of with our resurfacing on Forest Hill Road. The other streets are well past their prime too. 2004, 2003, last resurface. So we're looking at 23-year-old, 22, 23-year-old streets by the time we get around to them now. There's some other older ones out there, but we're maintaining good pavement and good condition with some of the preventative maintenance. So overall, that road program, those resurfacing projects will be about $459,000. Our corrective maintenance stuff like patching and crack sealing, we bumped that up a little bit. So overall, those ancillary contracts will be about $140,000 this year. For a road program total going into our 2025 construction season of about $599,100. So switching over to the sides of roads, sidewalk projects, again, this was one that you've already approved for a funding source from the business district. We were just talking to the Street and Pathway Committee that this is already obligated, but it's an improvement that's well needed at the end of Lincolnshire Drive where it crosses Burr Ridge Parkway, well-used pedestrian crossing to get over to the village center, back and forth. We put up a temporary crossing for now with some striping and signing to at least delineate the legal crosswalk, but in the future it'll be maybe a modification to traffic control. Was it flashing beacons? We anticipate something like that. Do we have to put up a stop sign for that kind of control? We just don't know that yet. But we will be looking at traffic control modifications of some sort to enhance the conspicuity of the pedestrians crossing at this kind of mid-block location. Other pathway projects coming up, again, just maintaining what we have has kind of been a theme going forward with the funds that are available to remove and replace the asphalt paths like we did on 79th Street. Like we did in Crammel a few years ago. We're going to continue on 91st Street in a few years, on County Line Road in a few years after that. There's more out there on Burr Oak, on Burr Ridge Parkway and McClintock Drive, but those are eligible again for those business district funds. And then there's some other segments. But coming up here again in another couple of years is that wood retaining wall you see all the time on Madison Street by the North Frontage Road and I-55. It's on state right of way, so it has a lot more restrictions on what we can do. We just can't go in and take it out, but they do need plans and permits and all those things. So we do have some engineering dollars in the next fiscal year to get that constructed in FY 2028. So overall, that's a program for the next few years.
Anybody have any questions of David? Once again, well done. One of the things that makes Burr Ridge a very special place is our roads. Just talk to any trustees in any other villages. Just talk to the trustees in the village to the north of us on how important it is to have a regular road program so that we're not turning around having to specially assess the village or issue bonds to repair roads. We don't do that in Burr Ridge. We maintain our roads. And David's a big reason for that. And thank you very much again, David. Did you tell him about County Line Road?
Oh, sure. To touch again on Cook County type projects that we're hearing about, 79th Street, again, we said, is this coming summer? That's a year behind. We heard County Line Road now is coming up in 2 years, in 2026, but there always seems to be about a year behind, so maybe that's 27, but we at least hear that it's on their radar to diamond grind County Line Road. So they'll patch the badly deteriorated, cracked areas first in concrete, and then do a diamond grinding over the top of it. I call it diamond grinding, it's just a fine grinding that levels off that surface, so there's no more waviness, and once they patch it, it won't feel so bumpy. It'll
And they'll
just be
take all the
one
potholes out and make it
surface.
smooth. And
Right.
they're gonna do the one thing I've been hoping to do for 10 years.
We've been asking for them to improve the northbound to westbound left turn lane, northbound County Line Road to westbound Plainfield to extend the turn lane. We're going to follow up and do whatever we can to have that included in their scope of work.
Right.
That wasn't originally their intent, but they're happy to hear the suggestion.
You know, wintertime, especially if any of you travel north on County Line, coming up to Plainfield, at 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30, how that left turn lane backs up into the straight lanes. And to me, that's pretty dangerous when there's ice or snow on the ground. So part of what David's gonna get done for us in that is that they're going to extend that left turn lane so there can be more stacking and make it safer.
Pressure's
Okay.
on.
Pressure's on, right. They know, I've been bugging them for a long time about it. So thank you. All right, that's great. Thank you very much. Any questions? Do we need to, can I get a motion? Right. We need a motion to approve the Street and Pathway Committee recommendations for the 2025 road program. So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Roll call, please.
Trustee Paveza.
Yes.
Trustee Schiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Vital.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. 8E, consideration of draft fiscal year 26 to 30 capital improvement program schedule. Evan?
Thank you, Mayor. So this is actually the public kickoff of the budget. So those of you watching about how we spend our money, this is the first big one. Any direction from this will be incorporated into the draft budget, which will be released next month. We're coming out a little early this year. This is our CIP workshop, and the CIP is the capital improvement schedule. Just want to start off the top. We're scheduled to do about $7 million in CIP this year. We did about 5 last year, so we're keeping it going. About half of that is going to be in the water area. We've actually got a pretty big stormwater project to go this year as well with the Elm Street culvert. Already got that prepped up and set up. Now we just got to finish it. I'll walk through a little bit more of this, but over 5 years, we're planning to do almost $20 million of capital improvements in our village with no debt. Mayor always likes to make sure I'm reminding to say that. No debt will be issued in these types of things. These are only the projects we know about as well. But Dave's been working very thoroughly on our village infrastructure, and this is the result of a good plan that really addresses our issues proactively. So moving down, we have 4 basic items in our buckets for the CIP. The first is the general fund, and these are things that are paid out of the general fund directly related to some sort of specific project. We've got one very large project this year at the police station. This is one we've talked about for a few years now. But our HVAC improvements need a lot of work over at the police department. They were a little bit undersized when they were installed back in 2009, and they've reached the end of their life. We're going to upgrade these on the roof and also install a modern temperature control system. That'll help extend the life of that new system. But this is something we've got to have pretty soon here. We've been working for a couple of years with a couple of consultants about how to optimize this, and this is ultimately going to be a very long-term solution we've got in here. Got a couple of vehicles in here, a backhoe and a stump grinder. They're going to help us continue to do the work. Capital Improvements Fund, the big ones in here, again, are the Elm Street culvert, about $800,000. Pretty much all this thing is funded by external grants through Sean Kasten's office, as well as through the DuPage County grant. We're excited to get this through and out of the way. We've got our annual road program that was discussed, and then we've got 2 items that Dave also talked about that are also due for construction, which is the Lincolnshire Drive pathway construction, as well as the Burridge Parkway crosswalk. Again, Dave just mentioned those. We do have 2 engineering contracts up this year. The first is for the Parkview Basin. This is an area near Stevens Park, which we've got an underground pipe which has failed. We're looking at engineering to do an open ground type improvement to that, make it a lot more garden-like instead of just an underground pipe. And we've got a culvert over on Shady and Hillcrest on the east side of town that's failing pretty quickly, we need to replace. Moving on to the water fund, our third bucket. The first one is the long-awaited carriageway replacement. And this is one that's been talked about for a while. However, the good work of the Water Committee, LN, allows us to have the funds to do these things in cash quickly for the benefit of our residents. We have, how many breaks, Dave? Might as well ask while we're here. 5 or 6? Okay, so just wanted to cover the important question. This is going to be paired with $150,000 of additional sanitary sewer upgrades and maintenance in carriageway. You see on the bottom there, our only major capital funding project in the sewer fund this year. Sticking with the water fund, we are going to be finishing the water interconnect with Hinsdale. We did the Woodview water main connections all the way up in the northeast part of town over the past summer. Again, one of our best projects we've had in a while. We got really great reviews from our residents about our construction efforts. As part of that IGA, where Hinsdale allowed us to run a pipe through Catherine Legge Park, they wanted to interconnect through our water system. This will be a metered connection, so when they buy water, we meter it at the source so we know exactly what to bill them. But this will be a 1/3 cost. We're estimating pretty conservatively here. We think it'd probably be lower than that, but want to be safe with our budget. Sticking with some improvements here, we've got the pump center improvements. The pump center's pumps, when we originally ran them, the pumps that were original back in the 80s have reached the end of their useful life. One of them we really don't run anymore just because it's so big, it would depressurize the system. We're going to have some pumps be put in our first phase of this project that will replace those. It'll be a lot more energy efficient, be a lot more dynamic and not as manual, so they'll more dynamically, digitally be put in place. We're also going to have a new SCADA system put in for better pressure calibration. There's going to be a second phase which will occur to this in FY 2027. We looked at doing everything at once, but it just doesn't make sense in terms of where work is occurring. One project that we worked with the Water Committee on to originally scheduled for 27, we do have the funds to do it now, so we're going to move it up. As a suggestion would be the 62nd Street water main. We've experienced a significant amount of breaks come up here in the last few years, and it's important to jump on this before it gets too bad. This is on the north side of town. The residents have been extremely patient with us as we work through these breaks.
And it's just south of where the mayor lives, too.
Well, it's not on his street, it's near his street.
It's close enough.
At any rate, being that we have the funds available, Dave and I wanted to move this up to as immediate as possible. So we'll be jumping on this as soon as we can. It is old enough to warrant a complete replacement, but again, just the sheer number of breaks we've had in this location warrants it. This is the second half of that backhoe that we talked about in the general fund, but again, over $4 million in the water fund, along with all the other thing they do. They do water hydrant replacements, hydrant maintenance, a lot of great stuff comes out of the water fund. Really great work done by those guys.
Yeah, just let me interrupt
Yeah,
there.
yeah, please.
But because there were 2 or 3 breaks in a row within a few weeks, I actually walked down there a couple times and watched what the crew can do and how they can work those equipment and how they can get down there and do the work efficiently and get the water back running again within hours. It was like being a little boy for a little while. It was fun to watch what they were doing because, you know, I was like, whoa, they can really do that. So, you know, when we do have a problem, we have great people to come and fix it. So it was good to see.
Thank you for that, Mayor. Our last real big slide is how we're going to pay for it all. Operating balance is going to be the one that really takes the cake here. Water fund, it's all operating balance. Operating balance is just defined as current revenue and current fund balance. It's not that we have $5 million in the bank, it's that the current revenues are able to pay for that thing along the way. Same with the sewer fund. We do have some operating transfers that we do pretty routinely. The one difference in this year is the business district fund paying for the sidewalk and the crosswalk. The business district can pay for all capital items in the downtown. So I'm glad to be seeing that money be put to use. MFT fund, same thing. We do about this kind of transfer every year. The hotel motel fund, law says that we can use 25% of revenue and reserves at any point for capital. So we're going to be taking as much as we can legally take out of the hotel fund to help fund our capital program here. And the general fund, as always, you'll be seeing more of this in the budget, is contributing $539,000 toward this effort. And then you've got about $800,000 in leftover grants for the Elm Street culvert. Again, no debt, no property tax increases, doing pretty well. This is a pretty substantial amount of work. We did about 5 last year, 7 this year. This is larger than most of the towns around us, despite us being lower in population than a lot of them. So I'm very proud of the work that we're doing to stay proactive on these issues as they.
Yeah, and just let me throw another reason why we like having Evan sitting where he's sitting. When these things come up and I sit down with him and he tells me what they're gonna cost, he knows my next question is gonna be, how are we gonna pay for them? And he has a plan. And then we massage that plan. So it's always been the philosophy of this board and this village that we're gonna maintain what we need to maintain, but we also wanna know how it's gonna get paid for. It's always that second part of the question that I don't think government asks often enough. But Evan has the answers when I do ask, because I know you'll want to know too.
And we're debt-free.
Thank you. Still.
Yes.
For how long? But we still are, yes.
What was that, Joe?
So that is the conclusion of our mini workshop here. Again, this direction, if any, comes out tonight. We will be putting it into the budget. That's all I got.
Okay, so that's just information for tonight. You don't need any.
There's none that I'm good.
Right. Okay, that takes us to 8F. Unless anybody has any questions on the last item, let's go to 8F. That's the discussion of the Village Hall building, new Village Hall building. Go ahead, Evan.
Thank you, Mayor. So we've talked about additionally over the past 2 years off and on the question of Village Hall and how to maintain it or prepare for its future has always been a pressing question. Village Hall has been with the village. It's really the original building. It was built in 1985 as a joint Village Hall police station. I'll be repeating myself a little bit from the past year, but we moved from some houses really in the neighborhood back in the day. Some of those are still standing. It's about a 15,000 square foot building. About 10,000 of it is in the first floor, and we got about 5,000 in the basement. It's about a 2-acre site, excluding the Veterans Memorial. So with it, it's almost 3. We currently have about 18 total positions, along with the mayor's office, working at Village Hall. And I'm not expecting that to significantly increase in the future. Yes, we have some annexations here and there, but overall, that number is going to be about 18, plus or minus 1, depending on the year for the really reasonable future. This boardroom you're in has about a net capacity of 35 people. As you can see, we do have a few staff members in here. We spend about $125,000 annually in hard cost and staff time maintaining the facility. So about 70 of that is pure paying people to come in and turn wrenches and do things like that. We probably need about half of a supervisor in Public Works right now, just walking the building, keeping it running, keeping the lights on, making the HVAC work, depending on how it feels in here. But we spend a lot of time and effort keeping this thing going. It is a 40-year-old building, and it's starting to really show it. 20 years ago, the village assessed the facility and considered it outmoded 20 years ago. And as a result of that, they constructed the police station in 2010.
And just a footnote there, the conclusion of that study was that a new Village Hall was needed. But for understandably political reasons, the board then, and I was mayor, wanted and preferred to spend money on a new police station rather than a Village Hall. But 20 years ago, the space study said we needed a new Village Hall. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So just understanding the future of the building was also important to get an economic assessment of it. So we hired Pollack Appraisal Group to come in and do an appraisal of the building. That's publicly required to do that sort of stuff here and there. They assessed it at about $1 million, and just as a note, if we were to sell this property, we cannot sell it for 80%, under 80% of the appraised value, $824,000. We do have some pretty significant deferred maintenance. I'm clarifying this number here. Thank you, Trustee Smith. We spent $800,000 on capital maintenance in the last 40 years. We spent significantly more than that on day-to-day maintenance, things like light bulbs, new carpet, et cetera. But in terms of things like the roof, plumbing systems, parking lot resurfacing, it's been $800,000. And that includes the garage out back, which is probably the worst shape of all of the buildings that we own. To extend the life of the building for an additional 30 years, we need about $6 million to get this thing back into shape. I'm not recommending this, frankly. We only have about $4.8 million in free general fund balance today. So even if we spent all of that money over the next few years to do it, we would still have improvements to do. The office, the lobby, and the restrooms need about $2 million of work. Site work, building envelope, including the roof, the foundation, et cetera, need $1.7 million. HVAC is actually a pretty significant project at $1 million. That, almost 90% of that number is HVAC. We have a lot of original pneumatic systems, which is why it's so warm or cold in here. It's pretty much hot or cold, on or off. Not a very advanced system. The electrical in this building's pretty old, and then the basement just needs tons of work. That's where the frogs ended up the one day, and the like. Again, not suggesting these all needed to be done immediately, but I can't find a way that we can actually pay for all this, frankly. We've been looking as a staff about what are our other options. We've looked at a number of different options. This is one that we feel like probably has the best bang for its buck in terms of the dollar amount that we would need to spend if we were to go somewhere else. This is the Village Center outlot. As you can see, we've got Eddie Merlot's here, Harris Bank here. This is Burr Ridge Parkway, Bridewell. Starbucks is right there. And again, this is the entrance to Village Center Drive going north toward the Village Green. This is an undeveloped outlot near Starbucks. It's actually currently platted. It was part of the original PUD for the Village Center. For those of you who were a participant in that project, you'll know this was going to be a restaurant. So the village did anticipate quite a bit of traffic coming through here for commercial purposes back in the day. It's still part of the PUD. If a restaurant were to come in, it'd be permitted under law. It's about a half an acre site. It includes elements of some parking spaces, but I'll talk about how that'll work. Basically what would happen is you'd have either a 1 or a 2-story village hall in this location. And there's kind of pros and cons to both designs. But it'd be about 12,000 square foot building, smaller than we've got here because we've got some unused space we don't need here. And there can be some efficiencies in how we design it. Our employees would park in the deck, which is right here near the Starbucks. And daily Village Hall visitors would have dedicated spaces at the building. Just to give you an idea of how many walk-ins we have at this point, we on average get about 8 per day. So we don't have tons of through the front door traffic at this point anymore. We've already got quite a few people moving to online payments for water bills. We're actually going to be rolling out online building permitting in the next 6 months. There'll be a lower demand for the front door, and that there will always be some demand for that, but I anticipate that number going down even further once those things take flight.
And there would be a drive-through feature of this building so that contractors, et cetera, could just drive up, drop their plans off, or pick up their permits or something, and not even have to come into the building, especially in inclement weather. So another foot traffic reducing element, at least for this building.
So there'd be about 8 to 10 spaces out front on the north side here. This would include some improvements regarding traffic flow, sidewalk and parking lot reconfiguration. So one of the concepts we've looked at is this right turn here with the pork chop. You can actually go 2-way. Perhaps that could be 1 way in and 1 way out on the north side, helping to further alleviate any traffic issues. The stormwater is already built into this project because the Village Center, we already have the amount of appropriate space on hand due to the lakes in the area. The total cost of this, and this includes a really conservative contingency amount of 22%, is $10.5 million. That's a 2-story building. If we were to do a 1-story building, that number would come down by about 5 to 7%. And that's just about design. If the board said they wanted to have a certain design, that's available to you. Yes, Trustee Beveza.
The 10 million, that's strictly the buildings, you got nothing to do, no furniture, no interior work.
I'm sorry, let me clarify that then. So that includes furniture, architect's fees, permitting, site work, soft costs, everything out the door.
Soup to nuts.
Soup to nuts. The building itself is about 8.2. There's a number of other things in there. Again, I've got a contingency that's pretty large, so there's just some buffer that we've got in there. It's maybe too big, but I wanted to make sure I was conservative. But that includes everything, all out the door. Okay. Here's a better look at a concept look about how it would be. I'm sorry, 13,000 square feet. I think that's a little large, 13, and probably even closer to 12. One of the features of it would be that we would have all the storage and utilities located in the basement. There'd be no rooftop units, so things distracting residents who lived in the area. It would be a very sightly building. It would be designed to match the general aesthetic of the village center. We want it to blend in or stand out if you want, but we've kind of designed it schematically to be more of a blend in. Design right now has 22 employee capacity, so there'd be some additional space right now to either continue with what we're doing with the chamber or something like that, but we'd have room to grow. We have an open concept lobby. As you can see, there'd be both a door on the north and south sides of the building. The boardroom would be increased to about 75 people, so more than double. We're planning that a little smaller. If we want to bulk that up a little bit, there might be room for it, but in summary, there'd be a much larger board meeting room capacity. And minimally, this would be a 40-year life, just because we'd be part of a large PUD. They could be built more to spec and standard for a village. You can see an element of the drive-through right there, as well as the in and out that we'd have through on either side. This is just a rendering of a boardroom. This is pretty generic, but it gives you an idea of what it could look like with TVs behind you and around you for the audience to see, instead of the setup we have right now. And again, total cost out the door, $10.5 million at max. Talking about how we're going to pay for it, though, which is something Mayor just talked about. I estimate right now we can bring up about $7 million deriving through existing cash from the general fund, using the $2 million we received from the state last year that we didn't think we were going to get, didn't know we had. Business district funds on hand, sale of the village hall to another party, then other funds such as our IRMA fund, our IPPC fund, and the water fund, because we'll be using a lot of the water functions out of this building, would bring all that up to $7 million. So I can comfortably say that 2/3 of the costs can be paid for with existing cash without any need for new fees or taxes. And additionally, we would cover the remaining gap with $3.5 million of financing, covered with a combination of revenues from existing sources such as the general fund. So we're taking so much money out of our general fund because we're not maintaining this building to the extent, put that back into the servicing of that debt. The water fund, same thing, because we're using it to do a lot of our billing. We put a small amount of the water fund revenue in there every year, help reduce the overall cost, and the business district would cover the remaining balance. In summary, if we did all this, we would still have the ability for the business district to spend 2/3 of its annual revenues every year on capital, economic development, et cetera, in the downtown. We could save 10% of the money that we bring in every year from the business district, and the remainder would go to the paying off of this financing. So it would not hamstring you, it would not write off the future of the business district. You could still spend comfortably about $500,000 a year on sidewalks, grants, economic incentive deals, roads, water, whatever you wanted to on those things, and still have this building without any new taxes or fees going through to the residents. That's the end of my brief presentation. The purpose of this presentation is to begin the discussion about getting direction about Village Hall. I want to entertain any.
Nothing's been approved, nothing's been decided. That said, what I think has been decided so far, I think, is that this building will be sold. Can we talk a little bit about that option? So we've been meeting, Evan and I have been meeting with the people from the, what school district, 107? 107 school district, who would be interested in buying this, turning it into all-day kindergarten and related programs. They're very excited about having a building right across from a police department for, unfortunately, the obvious reasons that there is concern today with what has happened at some schools in some places around the country. The idea of having a school with tender age children right across and part of a police, if you will, complex, is very appealing to the school district. They would also, 107 would also use the building and the programs with, I think, Gower and some of the other schools on the DuPage side. The fact that 107 is in Cook, that's fine. They can still buy this property. We think we can sell it for a price that's well over the appraised value because of the added value of the building being where it is, and especially in proximity to the police department. So not only would we be building a new village hall, but we'd be repurposing, if you will, through a sale to a school district to keep this, for education of children. So a really good use of this property. They seem to have the ability to fund refurbishing this building to what they need and what they want to have here. As a school, they were particularly interested in the fact that we have 2 jails in this building. No, just a joke. I told them we'd throw the jails in for added value, but they are not afraid of taking on the cost of refurbishing this building to what they would need. So we also looked at, so we did look at the TCF building. We've kept you advised of that. The idea of renting a portion of that just isn't economical. The owner isn't asking for, a rental, a fair rent as far as we're concerned, as far as what public funds should be spent on. So we tried that. We don't think that's an alternative. Because this parcel is in the business district, that is a real important revenue source to finish this off. So I think it can work at the site where it is and where we're proposing. What you would have remembered and what you would have remembered as kind of the Gibsons. We thought, Gibsons would be there, or some very high-end restaurant. That's what that pad always was intended for. Of course, it never happened.
Distillery?
Yeah, distillery or something like that. Maybe we can have a distillery in the basement.
Proposed at one time.
We think that on a third to a half an acre with a drive-through, it can be a very efficient site for us. Of course, realize that the staff likes being in the downtown, and so that's a little bit exciting. I think there's a lot of pluses to it, but there's a lot of devil in it, is in the detail. So the discussion is now beginning, and anybody has any questions tonight, we'll start answering some questions. Yeah, come on up.
I'm Bill Voigt, 166 Foxborough in Burr Ridge.
Bill, we can't,
Can you hear me now?
Bring that a little closer. There.
Okay, Bill Voigt, 166 Foxborough, Burr Ridge. I'm here tonight because the general manager at Lifetime received a letter that this meeting was going to take place, and it kind of indicated that maybe this could affect the club in some way. Only if people, I guess, can climb over the parking lot fences in order to get there. But then that made me think, but wait a minute, as you know, Russ, I occasionally have to go and get a hot chocolate from Starbucks, right? And during the months of November and December, I can't do that because there are no parking spaces to even pull into for 5 minutes. And now we're losing 10 of them according to this building. So I would hope that what you would do is you look at this building and the possibilities is that you do a traffic and parking survey of the garage to see how much of it is used. Because will people either have to climb over the fence from Lifetime or go into the north parking lot and take a bus to get down to this end? Because there's already 0 parking on the south end. When I went to get see my dentist recently, I had to drive around for 10 minutes until somebody finally left. So my concern is you're taking up parking spaces that already are well overbooked. And I hope that before you do anything like this, that we look at this as a 20-year plan as opposed to a 10-minute plan where people to drop off their plans.
So Bill, here's my view of that.
Yes.
First of all, we will put a gate in, so when you keep your car parked at Lifetime, you can walk right over through the gate. So that'll solve your problem. Second of all, it amazes me how people will go to Oak Brook, park a half a mile away, and walk there, but they won't spend the time to go up into what is almost always available in the parking deck, many, many spaces and take the escalator or the elevator down to the Starbucks. So I hear you, but,
I have a question for you.
sure.
Have we ever done a survey as to how much that is used and at what hours during the day? Those parking spaces are used, especially the south. And by the way, we live here and not Oak Brook because of that exact thing.
Well,
Okay.
I get that, but at the same time, we built that village center and built the parking where it is so that people would use it. And people would rather drive around for 10 minutes until a space opens up than go up into the parking deck and
I
come
wouldn't mind
down
going,
the
I wouldn't mind going
elevator.
up to the parking garage as long as I felt there might be a space up there.
Well-
But I've driven around through that, and I've had to go up to the third level to find something, and then you're kind of crossing, oh, I have to drive across to the other side, et cetera. So that's why I would hope that you would at least make sure that you know what the availability
Absolutely.
of being able to hike from the parking garage over.
Right,
is.
and we have been talking to Ramsey about giving us his studies, but I will tell you that I have never had to park on the third floor.
Really?
And unless I wanted to, in order to be right next to the elevator to go right down. So I think we'll address all of those concerns. And one of the things we do want to have, I think, is to have enough people to come here so that they are going to have to look around for a parking space. And part of the thing that we're going to try to do here also is to speak, at least at night, to the Harris Bank people to see if we can use that lot also at night. It doesn't mean it will happen, but that piece of property is actually owned by a Burridge family. So we're hopeful that we might be able to strike a deal. But we are looking at everything, and everything right at the top of the list is not only traffic flow, but parking. So we will go.
Yeah, and I could see from that the traffic flow looks pretty reasonable around that.
Right.
It's just, I know I just lost 10 spaces, so now I'm going to have to wait a lot longer.
Well, we won't make you
He gets
climb the
very
fence.
upset about
We'll open a
that.
gate for you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, no one else. Any questions at this
You
stage?
said
Yes.
the Harris Bank, is that the one in County Line Center?
No,
Yeah, it's right
Right
across,
here.
next to Eddie Merlot's.
Yeah,
north side of the street on the intersection.
yeah.
At night, that parking lot's empty.
And that was my question too. For Village Hall meetings such as this, people could just park there and walk
Right.
across. They don't even
So-
have to go in the garage.
As I said, there is a Burridge family that owns that parcel. Harris Bank, maybe for good PR reasons, or BMO, I guess it is BMO Bank. We're fairly confident we can structure a deal.
And in the daytime, Eddie Merlot's is, no one's there in the
Yeah.
daytime, so.
When is the,
Sorry, go ahead, go ahead. No,
You done?
no, you go ahead and then I'll ask.
is the plan, when is your plan to start and what is the timetable?
There's no timetable right now. We want to know what the six of you are thinking. But if we were on board to do this project, then right away. Yes.
Just some initial comments. I mean, I try to keep all my shopping and dining in Burridge. But I know during the concerts, parking in the village center is non-existent. And then Fridays and Saturdays, it's very challenging to find spots, even in the parking deck on the third floor. So I do worry about parking. 5:30 in the morning to get my coffee at Starbucks, plenty of spots, but you know, as the day goes up, gets old. 1, 2, I heard basement. I don't know, I know to hide utilities, but the village center's got all their utilities, well, I think it's like underneath it's like inside of the parking garage and then actually on top of the buildings. I mean, I think we can save some money by just going on a slab and putting utilities on top and then decorate it, you know, so that it looks like
We'll certainly look at that.
yeah.
Mhm.
Going on a slab versus digging is gonna save us money.
One thing
Wait, Al, are you done?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
yes, Al?
One thing, parking's what I'm thinking about too, especially if we have a board meeting where a lot of people show up. If we don't have access to Harris Bank, we have a problem and people are gonna bitch about that like crazy.
Right, which is why I think I just brought up Harris Bank. I think we're gonna look at that. We also, if we have a bigger meeting, that's one of the reasons why we want a bigger board room, so that we don't have what we've had here before, people lined up outside or having to go to another facility. But yes, parking is one of those good problems to solve. You can be back, and you should remember this, Al, when we were building the Village Center, people came in, and what was one of the first things they all said? Where are we gonna park? Where are we gonna park? And we showed them where we were gonna park. And I said, yeah, at times there's going to be a parking problem, but you want a parking problem because that means people are coming to your village and your community. So
Oh, I enjoy them.
is everybody, and including Bill, gonna be able to park right around Starbucks? No, not happening, okay? May we be asking to free up some of those spaces now that are being used for Tesla charging spaces? I think we're gonna talk
think
to
those are too
Ramsey
many.
about, we're gonna talk to Ramsey about that. I'm serious about the gate and getting some access so that people who are parked at Lifetime can walk into the Village Center and not think they have to leave and find another parking space. We will solve the parking problem. We will.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident about that as well.
So, any other questions tonight? Yes, Russ?
All right, can you turn to page 235, the current Village Hall, please? It's right there.
Yep.
So, I'm gonna face my resident a year from now, 2 years from now, and give my resident a $10.5 million new Village Hall. And I keep looking at this figures that you gave us. So for 40 years, we have spent $800,000, but we've had all these issues all along. And I have yet, since I've been sitting in this seat, and I'm gonna question previous trustees that have been sitting in these seats, why haven't we ever come across the needs of the village for Village Hall in our capital budget? If in fact we need to get new electrical, or if we have an issue in the basement, why haven't we seen this for over 40 years, those concerns in our capital expense needs? It's in our homeowners, in our own homes, it's neglect. If I'm a bad homeowner and I don't fix my roof and I don't fix my HVAC and I just let this thing just go for 20, 25 years, what have I done as a homeowner? I've neglected my home. You gotta maintain your expenses. You gotta maintain your house. You gotta maintain your Village Hall. And are we gonna go spend $10.5 million on a brand new building and maintain that building like we've shown history here? I would think our residents would have a big issue with that.
A
But
big issue with what?
the way we manage our buildings.
Okay, so if you don't like the way past boards have managed this building, then sitting there, I presume that you will make sure that when we have our new building, it will be properly maintained.
What I'm gonna suggest is what needs to be done. We've talked about this building, it's got a lot of issues, but what needs to be done? This is a reserve study, what I'm looking at. 30-year reserve study. I mean, I've done this before with condominiums and everything else. It's a reserve study. I've yet seen as a trustee what's broken, what needs to be fixed, what are the quotes to fix it, and get presented in front of us. I think we need to kind of scratch that surface first before I go to the resident and say, here's your $10.5 million bill for a brand new facility. And by the way, is it really 10.5 in new construction? Is it really that number all the time? I think the police station, we got originally a quote of, I'm gonna say 6 million, 8 million, and what did the final build become? So
let's, because I'm gonna stop you there, because you don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
The police department original budget was gonna be $6 million. The person who bid on it was a former Burr Ridge resident, and it was in the midst of the recession.
Oh, the recession, yeah.
And all he wanted to do was make sure he kept his people employed. And that building came in for $5 million. Now, we probably didn't catch at the time that the HVAC system probably should have been bigger than it is. And now we're gonna be paying that cost this year. But that building came in under budget. And as far as past boards, they have been dealing with other problems. And what happened here, because I sat as mayor for many of those, is that the board, understandably, didn't want to spend the money on the building. Go to any village hall around and then go back there and see the difference in the working conditions and those rooms that we have staff work in. Go into the men's room and see the quality. You're laughing as if you've been in there.
No, not in the men's room, the ladies'
But
room.
I'm sure the ladies' room is,
Yes,
I would
equal.
hope is better, but, you know, metal that's rusted out. I mean, we've done what we can with this building. And yeah, we may have Band-Aided it day to day, year to year. You weren't here, but there were other problems to solve. And, you know, I take a little affront because what you're saying is the past mayor, and I was that mayor, and Mickey and Sodikoff somehow allowed this building to deteriorate and didn't take care of the other problems. We took care of the problems, but we didn't keep this building up.
But we haven't seen a list. I'm suggesting over 40 years, have we seen a list of the bathroom is priority number one, we need to get that fixed. How much is it gonna be? Let's get quotes, let's look at it. That's what I'm suggesting. We haven't seen a list.
I think he has given you lists and lists and lists of things. The last time we had this discussion, you wanted him to give you actual numbers again. These are the same numbers.
Those are reserve studies.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by reserve? Just so I'm clear on the definition.
You know, in 40 years, if you have to read, what you do, you have to book in, okay, we gotta redo the roof, you gotta redo some plumbing, you have to do HVAC. That's a reserve study.
Yeah.
Over the next 40 years, here's what you need to expect to spend.
So I will tell you that this is everything, pretty much everything on this list is replacing original work. The original electrical has really not received anything. I've got the original wiring in here. The HVAC is going to go out in this building at some point, and it will be $1.2 million per the same consultant that has done the estimation at the police department. The floor out here, if you ever wonder why the two rugs never move, it's because there's wood underneath there, because the entire wood cracked, or I'm sorry, the floor cracked and buckled in COVID under humidity, because we didn't open the building for 2 months. I think every single bathroom, the foundation actually sunk in the bathrooms, because just that's what happens at some point in certain parts of buildings. I've got people working in the basement next to the bad HVAC that runs all day long, and frogs get in their office because the foundation's not sealed up properly. The back garage, I mean, I don't know how many times Dave's guys have gone up and nailed shake siding back up there. You can see it kind of wedged up there. It's just not that good. So I appreciate your clarification of what a reserve study is. I'm telling you that this is a 40-year-old building that, as Mayor said, based on my read of the studies, and I've read every piece of material on the building, they've been putting their money elsewhere, which is fine. That's the right of boards. For many years, we were putting our subdivision money into pathways. As an example, when we had a new subdivision be developed, the board opted to put those things into sidewalks, which is fine. I think there was just a different vision back then, and that's okay. But I also think it's okay, this is a 40-year-old building that's just reaching a point where we need to make a decision one way or the other on it. So This is not a reserve study. These are things that I pretty much need in the next 5 years if you wanted to keep this building running as is. Could we value engineer this down to $5.5 million? Probably. I'm sure I could squeeze some horsepower out of this, but even then, we've only got $4.5 million in general fund balance. And I don't think I have the direction to spend all of our fund balance on a 40-year-old building, but I'm happy to provide the board with any documentation you'd like on this building and how much it'll cost. I can say that almost everything on this list, bar one or two small things, has been put forth by our architect, someone that the village has hired to do an inspection, or a third party hired by our architect. Very few things in here were swagged or we took a guess on it. As I said, I've probably got a little contingency in here, but I want to be very clear. These are pretty accurate numbers based on today's value. So,
Joe? Been on the board for a while. Prior to you having the administrator came before. Gary, I think you've done a great job in the past. And one thing that keeps coming up is the roads, the water. One of the first committees I went on with Guy and Al. The first thing that came up is we have 2 water towers, 6 mains that are over 50 years old. And our rates for water, one of the lowest anywhere. The first thing I said, why? Let's raise it. This village has gotten all the success from the previous boards, the previous mayors. And for someone to come and say, well, I want to see this survey. You've given the numbers, because I've gotten them for the last couple of years from you for this place. The place is at its time.
Yep.
We can get the facility sold correctly. We can go on and get a new facility and not have to spend $125,000, which is a solid, roughly guesstimate, because sometimes it's worse, just maintaining your own home. So we sit here, we provide for the village residents. We don't provide for us, but we ask our staff to sit when it's hot, sit when it's cold, sit and do this. We try and do its best and give them the extra day, but I'm not going to give the extra day in their personal days. But the situation is very simple. We've done a nice job. You've done a great job, so has everyone else. This facility has outlived its resource. The boards get so overrun with bodies of people. You've researched everything in the last couple, 6, 8 months. You've come with this before. You brought this before a while ago. It was good back then. So, that's my thing.
Anybody?
I-
Yes, Anita?
So I like that you have a potential school district buying this. It's like a public body and a public service body. I like that. I like that we are potentially going to own it. I wasn't a big fan of renting because I feel that it's money that's just going, and this way we have ownership. My question is, parking, I think I agree with you. We will be able to figure it out because there are a number of lots around, and we can, stagger parking. You said we might have to take a loan. Can we repay the loan with the business district money? Because the loan would be in the village's name.
well, just to be clarifying, yes, the business district can be used for any element of that construction.
Okay.
We can't, I don't think I can get to 10 in cash. I can get as close, if the board said get as close as you can, I could figure that out. I'm someone that naturally says I want to hold reserves back just because I don't know. You just don't. COVID could come back or
Right,
something like
right.
that. So, and we've had one phone call with our bank. What does it cost to borrow money at a commercial rate right now? They don't seem to think that we couldn't pay it back early and save on that interest cost, so it could be even cheaper. But I think we have a lot of flexibility right now, including if you were to get 7 figures for this property to be a nice starting payment. The $2 million in the general fund that we got unexpectedly really changed the thinking for me. Just because that's a huge down payment on a $10 million building if that were to go through. It's 20% of the way there
Right.
already.
Right. Okay. No, I like the idea. I like the location, and I think the Village Center will also be very happy to have the Village Hall right
I
there.
didn't clarify that either. The Village Center wants to sell us the land for $1.
Right.
So that's a big part of this. We could look at another piece of property, but assume it's gonna come with another $1 million in purchase cost, some odd cost in site development. There's I'm just gonna throw an example, the property next to Marriott Lakeside Point, we'll call it 1400 Burridge Parkway. That's for sale for about $1 million, but it's hilly. It doesn't have its own stormwater system. That's probably another $500,000 to grade and stormwater it. So that 10 becomes 11.5 if we go somewhere else, and we're farther away from the heart of Burridge. They're very excited at the prospect of having Village Hall downtown to bring residents to the Village Center. They've been very supportive of the concept, and I think to offer something like this on the front door of the Village Center for nominal cost of nothing is very generous of them. And they've been very supportive of us as a village in terms of events and those types of things, and they want to continue to see us be successful in this realm as well, because I think they'll benefit in some way as well, and I appreciate them for doing that. So I think this is a great value, all things considered. You know, I was just looking at Hinsdale's capital plan, who has $4 million in HVAC improvements alone in Memorial Hall. If you've ever been to Memorial Hall, it's their big on a hill library thing. You know, that's not something we have to deal with. They have to stay at Memorial Hall. We don't have to stay here per se. That's a 120-year-old building. This is not that. So that flexibility is something we should not take for granted. And we don't have to sink money into an old building like that. So I'm excited about the idea of getting basically free land on a developed site. That's not something that comes along too often, for those of you who know. And whatever questions exist from the public, parking, that's a reasonable question. I'm confident we'll solve them. We're obviously not making the decision tonight, but I'm excited to dig into this with everybody to figure out what's best for the village.
Yes, Guy.
I have several questions. I appreciate Trustee Smith's comments about this cost estimate. What I'd like to know is I'd just like to see some more detail. This is a summary cost estimate.
Yeah, sure.
This is a summary cost estimate. It comes from some detailed numbers. I'd just like to see the details so I can get behind this number.
More granular separation.
Well, you, $500,000 for restroom upgrades, $200,000 for a library upgrade, $600,000 for office. How did you get to these numbers?
Sure.
Okay, so then I can get behind them. I can get some confidence in them. I think that's what Trustee Smith was getting at. And to Trustee Smith's point about work not getting done here, since I've been a board member, we've talked about remodeling those bathrooms for the last 12 years that I've been a board member. And it hasn't happened because we've had water main breaks, we've had pavement that needed to be replaced, we've had snow plows that needed to be purchased, and those kind of got on a lower priority than those other higher priority items, so I appreciate that. Questions? How many village staff vehicles are you going to be asking to park in the parking garage? I see more than 3 out in the back parking lot here tonight.
Well, one of them doesn't work here. That's Dave.
One of them
I
doesn't.
want to say we have 2 admin vehicles for Village Hall. The majority.
3?
Sorry?
2 or 3?
I'm going to call it 3 at most, but I don't
Okay.
even think it's that much.
All right, so and those employees then would be parking their cars at the parking deck with the Village Center owner's approval.
I don't know specifically where they'd be parking. I mean, we've talked about a number of ideas. One of them could be expanding on-street parking on Bridewell. There's a median right there that could be removed if the street parking, if the traffic becomes one in, one out. So I don't want to commit to where 2 cars will go, but I think if we move forward, we can certainly establish a
Well,
better
somewhere in the summer I read that
Oh, yeah,
village
yeah.
employees would be parking over there.
They'd certainly, the staff who don't have cars would certainly be parking in the deck,
Okay.
yes.
All right, that's where I was going with that, okay.
Village vehicles, got it.
This $6 million estimate also for upgrading this village hall here, would there be, is there a timeline associated with that? Is it over the next 2 years, 4 years, 6 years? If you could put a timeline to that number as well, that would be very helpful to me.
Understood.
Okay. We're talking about paying this $10.5 million back with a variety of sources, one of them being the water fund. And I think our water fund monies are committed already for water fund items such as water mains, replacements, extensions, and repairs and so forth. So are we double counting this? I don't know, but I would like to see some more detail on that. You mentioned the property at Burr Ridge Parkway and Bridewell Drive for $1.something million plus a ton of site improvements that would need to be done there, and this property is $1, which is very attractive. It's hard to pass that up. You know, like the mayor said, our parking problem is a good problem to have. That means our restaurants, our stores, and our businesses in the village center County Line Square and surrounding areas are thriving. They're doing well. But I go to the parking deck, and I see signs that say no lifetime parking. I go to County Line Square, and I see no Village Center parking, Village Center people parking there. I go to Brookhaven, and I see signs that say parking for Brookhaven customers only. So, and I'm sorry somebody has to drive around 10 minutes to find a parking place right out front of Starbucks. It's a real problem we have here in the village. I'm sorry about that. But this Starbucks is one of the few that does not have a drive-through.
That's right.
So, and we knew that when we talked about the Village Center, that, yeah, people want to park out front, go in and shop, and come back out and leave. And lo and behold, if they have to go park in the parking deck and be inconvenienced, that's a beautiful parking deck. Escalators, elevators, beautiful bathrooms in there. It's heated. Some of the other parking decks I've been to, like in Naperville and in Oak Brook, they're filthy, dirty, disgusting, and not maintained. And ours are, our Village Center ownership does a fantastic job of maintaining that parking deck, and I'm glad to see that our residents are utilizing it. And I've had to park on the third floor sometimes too. So what? No big deal.
Right.
So if you could get me that information, I don't need it now, but next time we talk about this, if I'd like to
No, that's reasonable.
bring up the question again, and then we can talk about it in detail, because I'm sure maybe the residents would like to know that information as well.
Sure.
I did have a resident ask me today, he says, I heard you're moving the Village Hall to TCF Bank. I said, I don't know. How'd you hear
The
that?
rumors will now start.
Rumors will now start. So he says, no, it was, possibly might have been discussed in the past, but probably isn't going to happen.
Right. I'm sure, given one gentleman's comment that some reputable news service will probably say there are board members that live in Darien now. So, yeah, let the rumors start. Yeah, all good questions, and we'll get you that information. Anything more, Guy?
At $10.5 million, at 13,000 square feet, that's over $800 a square foot. That's huge. That's
Yeah.
a palace.
Right,
That's gold-plated, everything, okay?
No, we looked into gold-plated, we couldn't
Okay.
get it.
We're not gonna get, we're not gonna buy that. So I think that number needs to come way down. And what is your what percentage? is your
22%.
Of direct costs and indirects? Of everything. Everything, okay, that's a big number.
Yeah.
So,
That includes furniture, fixtures.
it's finished, that's turnkey.
We don't expect it to be $10 million, 10 and a half, but
You gotta start somewhere.
what
I
I
get it.
said to him is, if we mention a number, we can't go above it,
That's a good way of putting it.
okay?
Well, that-
So, you know, I said to him, give us a number, with a big contingency in it, so that we know we're never gonna reach it. Because nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to go to the public and say, now it's, and cities and government does it all the time. It's gonna be a $20 million project, it turns out to be $50 million.
I know.
So we're not gonna do that. That's not gonna happen here.
Willowbrook just did a new village hall, public works, police station.
Even
What-
Countryside did a new one.
Countryside did a beautiful
Yeah.
facility.
What, and Downers, 20, 25 million?
60.
60 million.
Who's?
Downers
Their
Grove,
police
go
station?
go to,
They
go
have
go to
gold-plated
Downers Grove,
everything?
go to the, I mean, it's beautiful, it's beautiful.
Gold-plated?
And it's more than a village hall, to be fair. They, they have a community center, and I think it's also some of it's police. 60 million? You live in Downers Grove, you should, 60
School
million.
districts in there, it's an all-in-one, it's built right in the downtown. Some of their debt came off the books and they decided to reinvest it into a building. Their building was temporarily purchased in 1968 as a ball bearing factory, just moved out last year.
And I will tell you, I was at the meeting. We are in DuPage County, there are 6 districts. Burr Ridge is in District 3 with Hinsdale, Darien, Woodridge, blah, blah, blah. And we every so often meet the mayors and the village administrators who can make the meeting. Hinsdale, what's going on? She was not happy, the village administrator. We're gonna have to spend, I think she said, whatever number she said, it was a lot of money. And she didn't want to spend it because public isn't gonna see it. But it's a big number because that building now needs it. And as Evan said, they can't move that village hall.
Right.
So they're now looking on top of their road program and other issues that a very nice village like Hinsdale has. They have to now look for serious money just to maintain their building. And the public's not gonna see anything.
Right, right.
Another lackluster board.
Yes. So, I mean, bigger picture, if we can turn this into an education facility, sell it for more than its appraised value, I think that's a great public benefit. And then and build a new village hall and not go into debt. We may go into some temporary debt, but we will have a revenue stream to pay for it.
I think
And
that's
getting
very
the property for nothing,
Yeah.
as Guy said, it's just something we can't turn down right now.
Those are the two things you have in your favor, the business district revenue and the lot.
Absolutely. And $2 million that came out of the sky. I mean, really. I'll tell you, we're here a little bit long, but I'll tell you what happened. The mayors talk every now and then. The mayor in Lyle is a friend of mine. We talk. And Chris called me one morning and he said, I'll just put it in a little more polite words, how the heck did you get $2 million from the state? And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, I look at this money coming from the state to all the villages because I want to see what I get. And he's into this stuff. And he said, you're getting $2 million. My next call was to him. Are we getting $2 million? I don't think he knew yet. And found out that we were getting $2 million. So that's what I mean, it literally fell out of the sky. And so with that $2 million and the money we can get from here and what we have saved, I mean, this building will be put to a good educational use, and we'll get a new village hall in the business district that we can pay for. A decision has to be made, but I don't think it's very hard.
Lastly, with Trustee Francis, I think in our water committee, we've got a meeting coming up, and we're at a period of time where we're gonna review what the cost rates are.
Yes.
So I think that even when Evan puts us in at the water fund, because we're past due, from what my perspective was, it's time to raise it, just even if it's a penny or whatever it was, over a long period of time, it's gonna also support that water fund. Because the biggest issue, remember when I came on the thing was, we had $7 million short for 2 water talk. When David, you did a fantastic job. All those water breaks, which that meeting, I was like, what? So again, I appreciate everything you did, David. So again, I think that in the committee with you and Al that we've done, I think we'll have some additional supports. I don't think it's gonna be redundant in hitting that water fund twice.
And past boards did put this building always last. And I mean, we all understood why. When a water main has to be fixed or other things have to be done, or streets have to be done, this building always came in second. But to Russ's point, we build a new building, then we should make sure we have the funds to keep it up. That'll be our responsibility to the future boards. But we're past fixing this building. We're past fixing this building. So we've been at this tonight a very long time, and so to be continued, we will,
A lot of good direction.
we are almost for sure not going to have a January 27th meeting. And Mayor Pro Tem and I are both out of town February 4th. And so far, we probably don't have to meet then either, so we're probably not going to meet till the fourth Friday of February. However, in the meantime, we,
Not being the fourth Friday. Thanks, though.
fourth Monday, I'm sorry, thank you. We've been here too long. The fourth Monday of February. But in the meantime, and as quickly as we can, let's get the information to everybody And of course, when you have more questions after you leave tonight, you're entitled to all the information. So we will get it to you. All right, that will take us to item 9, public comment. Is there any public comment? No public comment. Reports and communications?
I just met with Evan and Pam, and we went over the agenda or the plan of events for 2025. There's a great lineup ahead. We're being led by really competent people. They're also hiring new staff members to replace some of the others. So stay tuned. And the first event of the year will be the Armed Forces Day. And it'll be very exciting, and followed by the concert series and a few other surprises along the way. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Russ? Anybody else? Briefly?
Yes, I would just like to announce Village Academy registration is open. Go on our website if you'd like to register. We had a full house, full class last year. Very positive experiences from all our residents. You're going to learn how to do everything. You're going to visit all of our facilities, including some of the more minor ones like our pump center. We shortened the class a little bit this year from 10 weeks to 8 weeks, just to try to make it more accessible to residents. It'll be on Tuesdays this year, not Wednesdays. So just a couple of brief changes there, mid-March to early May. We'd love to have you. Thank you.
Okay, and I just have something very briefly. I am the DuPage representative to the CMAP board. CMAP is a federally designated metropolitan planning organization that's responsible for developing the region's long-term comprehensive plan and planning. It's really planning the transportation. It's METRA, it's PACE, it's the CTA. And so, we meet too often sometimes. But I am the DuPage representative. What I brought and what I'll give you if you want to is there's a nice report as to what we've done in the last year. The state of Illinois is reaching a fiscal cliff for transportation funding. We have reached it in 2025. And the legislature and our board put together what they call the PART report as to the transportation needs for the state of Illinois, which are mostly the Chicago metropolitan area and the counties around. So this is kind of a summary of what we've done in the last year, but transportation, from the trains to the subways to the bus system is in serious need of reorganization in governance and needs, unfortunately, a lot of money just to maintain the system, let alone try to improve it. So some of that's in here I just thought I'd bring this report to everybody in case you're interested. So that's that. With that, unless there's anything else, can I get a motion to adjourn till probably February 24th?
That'll be the budget.
So that'll be a relatively long meeting because we'll be discussing the budget.
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate